go ahead.
Thank you.
Good morning, class 6. Welcome to your class of 1st December. So the last month of 2021 begins and you are almost on the verge of going to class 7. Firstly, Obhiraj, very, very happy birthday. Wish you a very happy birthday. Hope you have a great day. Enjoy it with your family and all your friends. And as I get to know, class 6 is having a nice party also coming up during the winter break. Also, you know, winter is a good time to do different kinds of sports and activities. So if you like playing badminton and all, just leave. So some were saying they were going to meet during the winter break, Christmas and all. So
we are having a picnic.
Picnic, definitely.
Yes, ma'am, we are having a picnic.
And
There is a group.
Don't forget to play badminton. Definitely, this is a winter.
In my apartment, I have many friends with whom I play badminton every day.
Very good.
I play rackets or badminton.
Please go ahead and
I have a badminton set.
I do not have any friends.
I have a badminton set, but I don't know how to play badminton.
then learn it. Definitely, it's a very nice game. So
I can
enjoy
do it.
yourself.
Yeah, it was good. Badminton is a very good game.
I do not play, but I know how to play. have
I
played
understand.
before.
But studying for 2.5 hours and doing classes every day in the morning and the evening, 3 hours per study is compulsory. And when you are studying,
I study for 7 hours per day.
not needed. If you sit with your
3 hours
book
for only
7 hours,
geography and history.
No, ma'am.
of course not. If you divide your work, maybe 3 subjects in one day, 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. You have to divide your time and do it. If you concentrate, 3 hours is enough. Okay, and then you can use your time. But when you are studying, the full concentration should be there. On that note, we are going to start and go ahead with history, what we were doing. Okay, so last day, oh my God, there's so much sound. Last day, we started discussing about King Ashoka and how his life completely changed after the Kalinga War. Remember, we did this, that how his life completely changed after the Kalinga War. And he saw when he gained the kingdom, he realized that the kingdom has nothing left, left with it. The happiness was gone. Everyone was sad. Even soldiers of his own army was dead. And for the first time, he realized that war can be such a disastrous thing. So he changed his plan from Digvijaya to Dharma Vijaya or Dhamma Vijaya. So Dharma is a Sanskrit word, the right actions that we say. We say always follow the path of Dharma. Do you people know about the Bhagavad Gita? Who told the Bhagavad Gita?
I'm Lord Vishnu.
Ma'am, Lord Vishnu.
Krishna in Mahabharata. And
Lord
to
Vishnu
whom?
in Mahabharata.
It is all about
Arjuna was
written
not
about
fighting.
Krishna.
Absolutely. To whom did he?
Krishna giving advices
to
to Arjuna
Arjuna.
during the Kurukshetra.
Very good.
Yes, because he was not fighting.
Advice to Arjuna during the Kurukshetra war. So what happened during the Kurukshetra war, when Arjuna and the Pandavas were there, led by Krishna, and on the other side it was the Kauravas and the other family members. So Arjun was very much, troubled and shaken. Arjun thought that how can I fight with my own family members? Yes, they are my cousin brothers and sisters, but my uncle, my teacher, my cousins are there. So if I kill them, so it's like I am actually destroying my own family. So what Arjun did was he put down his bow and arrow and said that I'm not going to fight. I cannot do this for land and all, for a kingdom. I cannot kill my own family members or fight against them. Then Krishna gave him the Gyan of the Bhagavad Gita. So there also you will find, so in Hindu literature, we talk about dharma, the right action. And Krishna told him why he should fight. What is the need? What is that though it was his family members, but why should he fight? So it is all about that. Here also, when Lord Buddha taught the
Sometimes read the Bhagavad Gita. I have one English version.
Very nice, very nice. It is believed that Gita has lots of secrets. If you read the Gita, you have a different view on life altogether, but you all are too small to understand it. When you grow up, maybe you can give it a reading. I still feel I am not good enough or grown up enough to understand everything, but still this is one thing. Here also he shifted to Dharma Vijaya or Dhamma Vijaya, and King Ashoka's life changed forever. He made sure that he also follows as a king. He sets an example and he follows the the path of dharma, and he gave up war. So what did he mean by dhamma? These points are important. Firstly, non-violence or ahimsa. Of course, a main teaching of Lord Buddha as well as Mahavira. Then tolerance of all religions and all castes. Though he converted to Buddhism later on, but he never forced anyone in his kingdom to convert their religion. So it was very open, and it was like, you can follow any religion of your choice. There is no problem. Then be generous towards all. Every time, don't do things thinking, what will I get in return? So if maybe sometimes what we do, we are sharing something, we think that, okay, he also should give me this, or she also should give me this. I am giving you this thing, you are also, don't think that way. Do it. If you are doing something for someone, do it genuinely from your heart, with kindness, expecting nothing in return. So do for the work for the people. And definitely obey the parents and the elders, respect them. That is important. Be honest every time, and kindness for all, not only humans but animals also. I told you all that he gave up hunting. During that time, kings used to go just for fun,
It was a sport.
as a sport, as a fun activity, as a recreation. Like we all have recreation activities and all. They used to go for hunting and kill animals just for fun. So he said, absolutely not. Nothing like that should take place. And we should not kill animals just for our own pleasure. How many of you ever seen anybody tease dogs, or put colors on them on Holi, or
I have seen them.
crackers?
I have seen.
I have seen.
And I have seen one.
I have
not
seen them.
I feel it so bad sometimes, those horse-driven carts and all, and they have a whip. So they hit the animal with the whip so that it goes. I feel that to be so bad. It is so, this is wrong. Imagine just to make it.
And my friend only beats
We
animals.
should imagine
friend
if
beats
we
animals.
were
Ma'am,
treated
even
like this.
Ashoka,
The pain
Hindus
that
are-
it feels.
I'm in
when you are
circus
doing
day.
that.
If
The
we
whole
were treated
Mauryan
like that, we
Empire-
should feel like
Bits
that.
for lions.
and the whole Mauryan Empire worked on the Chanakya's Arthashastra, and which had
Arthashastra was
the-
very important. Absolutely. Arthashastra was a book.
yes,
that
ma'am,
told
it
what
had
is right
inscriptions
duties
of
to the
not killing
king.
animals.
Not
without
killing
necessity.
animals was an important part, but Ashoka completely stopped hunting and lot of other things, and kindness to all, even to the poor, to the needy, everyone. You don't think about whether the person is of your own status or not. And as I said, be generous. When you are doing something for someone, don't do it expecting that, or on the feel with the feel that what is he going to do for me in return? What am
And
I get in
once we were traveling in a bus, there was a small insect. So we were all talking, and the insect was it was a small insect, and one of our friend was scared of it. So he killed that animal. Another who was sitting beside me did not talk to all of us for the whole day.
that is unnecessarily doing these things is not something that we should do. So this is very important about dharma. And what I told you, this is why Ashoka's name comes up so much in relation to Buddhism, is because Buddhism before this was mainly in and around parts of India, in some parts of India. But Ashoka was the one who made Buddhism spread far and wide. He sent Buddhist monks to different parts of the world, including Thailand, present day Indonesia, Thailand, China, present day modern day Bhutan, Nepal, then Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
All these sides he sent his, especially his elder son. His elder son did not become the next king, you know. His son, who was rightfully the next king, he took up the path of Dharma Vijaya and went to spread the words of Buddha far and wide. He left Mahendra, led a very simple life. Mahendra and his daughter, Sanghamitra, from his first wife. So Ashoka's son and daughter, they themselves converted to Buddhism, and Ashoka's son did not take the throne itself. He went away to spread Dharma far and wide, Dhamma far and wide. And what he did was, he used to issue royal edicts, you know, the teachings of Buddha were written down, which there were people called Dhamma Mahamatras, Dharma Mahamatras or Dhamma Mahamatras, who used to tell the common people in the local language the teachings of Buddha. And he edicted many pillars all across his kingdom, and stupas, built stupas and edicted pillars all across the kingdom, so as to spread the word of Buddha. You see a very famous stupa that is there, if you
Sachi.
is the Sachi stupa. Absolutely.
Sachi
Stupa is, what is the difference between Hindu architecture and Buddhist architecture? Okay, you can take this down. I can give it to you as a thinking question. Or if I ever ask you, what difference do you find between Hindu architecture and Buddhist architecture? Architecture means the type of buildings they built. Very important, you know, for Buddhism, Ashoka built stupas like this, which were semicircular, like dome shaped, with a nice gate, and on the walls there are many teachings of Lord Buddha there. So stupas are a very important part of Buddhist architecture. In Buddhism, you will find many stupas being built. Even Shanti Stupa in Puri, that yesterday I was telling you, in Bhubaneswar. So it is a round top, a rounded top type of thing.
It is more like Taj Mahal.
It is more like
And Taj Mahal. It looks like Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal.
No.
That is a dome.
Absolutely not.
Dome-shaped.
Absolutely not.
No,
No,
understand
in
what
the
you're
top.
saying.
In
The
the
top
top.
of the Taj Mahal is like a dome. It's a dome shaped.
It's a
But
dome.
these are more like
It's a dome.
semicircles. These are more semicircular. This is a beautiful picture of the Sachi Stupa. It's in Madhya Pradesh. If you go to Madhya Pradesh, you can visit Sachi. So, you know, on the walls, there are writings, and there are 4 gates on 4 sides. So in Hinduism, after this, when we do the Gupta period, you will see, you know, the temple building that took place. Temple building was a very important thing, and Hindu temples were tall temples built elaborately and all. But these stupas were built in a simple way with the teachings written on the walls. Hindu temples had idols of Shiva, goddess, any god, like Vishnu, Shiva, whatever, dedicated to a god. But in stupas, you will not really find any god. You know, it was never meant to be for God, of course, but the teachings of Buddha were always there. Along with that, you know, he built Ashokan pillars are very famous. So Ashoka built many
Land capital of Ashoka.
pillars. Lion capital is definitely famous in Uttar Pradesh, and you will find Ashoka built pillars like this, you know, and on these pillars he used to write down the teachings of Lord Buddha.
Ma'am, from this, the national emblem of our country came.
Yes, please raise your hand, then I can give you chance turn by turn. Absolutely. And from one such pillar, you know, Ashokan pillar, we have selected our national emblem. The Ashokan, the 4 lions is our national emblem. With the very,
Yes, ma'am.
very beauty of our national emblem, you see, there are 4 lions, each one facing one direction, north, south,
4
east,
sides.
west. 4 directions, and it's like mighty as the lion, the thing like that. And you have an inverted lotus. Okay, and you will see India's emblem, India's main mark now. This has a base. Okay, this base has 4 animals drawn on 4 sides, marked on 4 sides, and in between there is the Ashok Chakra. So this is Ashokan, from the Ashokan pillars, this concept of India's national emblem has come. And one of Ashoka's, pillars, Ashokan pillars and all, they are present, if it is present in Delhi also now, in the Qutub Minar complex. If you visit that, you will again see one iron pillar that was built during these times. It is still there. Yes, few of Ashokan pillars are still present, but these, and the pillars had writings. Can I find anything where the writing? You can see. Can you see the writings?
Yes, ma'am.
It
Yes,
had
ma'am.
the
Wow.
writings of Dharma and all, the teachings of Buddha on it. So it is beautiful.
How many pillars were
Language is it written in?
It is written in which language?
It was written
Sanskrit.
during the Pali, Prakrit, those languages, even Sanskrit was used. So, the local languages of
many
that
pillars are
time.
there?
And if people did not understand, for that only the Dhamma Mahamatras were there, who used to go all around the kingdom and interpret and tell the people the teachings of Lord Buddha. Yes, Shrihan, what do you have to say?
Ma'am, why did we choose the Ashoka pillar with 4 lions as our emblem?
Why did they choose Ashokan pillar and Ashok Chakra? See, Ashokan pillar has a very deep meaning. I gave this as a project last year, so I did not repeat it with your year. So last year, this was a project given to the children that what is the Ashokan Ashok Stambha and what is the Ashok Chakra? The Ashokan pillars have a very deep meaning in our culture. The 4 lions depict 4 things like courage, like courage, valor, all these things. Each lion depicts that India and we Indians are courageous, and those values, that we hold those values. So it is very important that we hold on to those values. That is the thing. That is why the lions, this emblem was there. And at the bottom is this round base on which there are 4 other animals, and each animal again has a different meaning. Okay, so each animal has a different meaning. So there is horse shows speed. Okay, then there is you will find there is a bull shows strength, speed. So Indians, or we Indians, we want these values. We have these values in our culture. It has been passed down to us generation by generation. This is our culture, our heritage. That is why this has been selected as our national emblem. And the chakra, the circle, Ashok Chakra, with the 24 spikes, it has been once again. So I was reading this. So this has been selected when India gained independence. Before that, it was Gandhiji's charkha, which was there in the middle of the flag. Then it was changed to the Ashok Chakra. It was done because, it still shows that India as a country believes in the value of non-violence. Never has India on its own attacked any country. Never.
Attack first.
Yes, it has defended themselves. When there is any external attack, our army defends it. But India has never gone into other countries' territories to take away their land, and unnecessary fighting have not been in the culture of India.
Ma'am, India has not also appointed terrorists.
that is, of course, there are people who are doing right and wrong. I'll not go into personal things, but as a value, we don't believe in unnecessary fighting. We still believe in the value of ahimsa, peace, respect, equality. That is why the Ashokan symbols have been selected. Yes, Ananta?
How many pillars of Ashoka are there?
There were quite a few built during his kingdom. I'll have to look for how many are still surviving, means how many are still.
And ma'am, all of them
broken.
are.
Many of
No,
them
all
are
of-
broken. Okay, my God, you ask and then start talking. Many of them are broken and many have been destroyed by attacks later on. You know, when there were attacks later on, quite a few of them had been broken. Okay, now this is one thing.
Ma'am.
And lastly,
Ma'am,
yes,
and another thing.
quickly.
Ma'am, all of the pillars are in India only.
Yes, most of Ashokan pillars are in India. Most of Ashokan pillars are in India. But Ashoka also sent people abroad, like in Sri Lanka, like in Thailand, Indonesia, where they taught. And then later on, many, Buddhist, the places where Buddhists worship, it is called a Buddhist monastery. Have you ever visited Darjeeling or Sikkim and visited
Yes,
a
ma'am.
monastery?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
In my house only there is one.
I have been to one.
Very famous is
Ma'am,
the.
I have been to 2.
I have also been to 2-3 monasteries, and one very famous monastery is the Ghoob Monastery in
Yes, ma'am, I have visited that.
Darjeeling.
Yes, I also.
Monasteries
Ma'am, I have visited that.
Then
Okay,
in
okay.
Sikkim,
Inside my
you
house
have
also there is
the-
one monastery of
Yes.
Buddhist.
So Buddhist monasteries have been built. You go abroad also, so you will find lots of Buddhist monasteries. And the people of Sri Lanka were so much into it, and they believed it, so much that the people of Sri Lanka converted to Buddhism. Many people, they made it their one of the main religions in Sri Lanka became Buddhism. Okay. Now, what were the welfare measures taken by Ashoka for the people? This, again, I told you yesterday only, Ashoka henceforth dedicated his life for the good of the people. So he did build roads, he built rest houses, he built hospitals, he constructed canals for irrigation. He did all these things for the common people because he realized only gaining land through war is not the solution. If you just go on gaining land through war, then you are not truly a king. You need to win over the hearts of the people. You need to work for the people. Then only will the people truly consider you as their king. Okay, so Ashoka, with his beautiful policies, ruled over India for a long time. Imagine, without himself fighting any war, but he maintained an army. Of course, he maintained an army. He was able to maintain such a big kingdom throughout his,
Reign.
throughout his reign. He did not lose out any part of his kingdom. His kingdom was one of the biggest that India has ever seen. One of the biggest kingdoms that India has ever seen. One was Ashoka. Then later on, you will find Alauddin Khilji as a ruler had conquered a lot of land, but it was not as big as Ashoka's. As big as Ashoka's, later on the
And he conquered the south because with a general, because he heard that there was lot of gold and all those things, and the
Yes,
Kohinoor was
Alauddin
also
was
there.
of a different mindset. Alauddin definitely had a vast kingdom, but one more ruler who had a huge kingdom was Aurangzeb. By the time the Mughal Empire went under Aurangzeb, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb's kingdom was quite big. But after Aurangzeb, then the entire thing went down, and India went into the hands of the British slowly. But in ancient India, Ashoka had one of the biggest empires. So Ashokan rule is of great significance. It was a time of peace. It was not a time filled with war. It was a time when lot of good scientific progress was also made. Many people were studying, universities like Nalanda and all, they were flourishing. There was researches being done, good scriptures and all being written. Then it was a time of economic growth. Trade was flourishing. People were well off. Agriculture was good. So, you know, in a way, Ashoka's reign was a very fulfilling one. But sadly, within 50 years of Ashoka's death, the empire collapsed and the Mauryan
The
Empire.
last ruler of the Mauryan Empire was killed in 185 BC by Pushyamitra Shunga.
Yes.
Brihadrata Maurya.
The last
But if
ruler was
Chandragupta and Ashoka were so strong, then why did the Maurya Empire last for such a short time?
The successors of Ashoka were weak.
after Ashoka. See, if you are very good, is it necessary that your successors will be equally good? Suppose let's take an example. Suppose one of your father or mother is a doctor, and she's a very famous and very good doctor. Does that mean you will be an excellent doctor, though you don't like the subject or you don't want to be it? Can it ever be so? Then so it's the same thing. Earlier there was the thing that hereditally it went in a family, but that always elder son or the grandson, somebody would take up the throne, whether or not you are worthy or whether or not you are capable or not. So Ashoka was really a capable person, but the people after that, they were not able to manage such a huge kingdom. What happened slowly was, I'll tell you Pushyamitra Shunga's story next day. You know, Pushyamitra Shunga was a great believer in Hinduism, and from the reign of Ashoka and later on, what was happening in India was Hinduism had taken a back set while Buddhism and Jainism was going up. People were following those much more. But Pushyamitra Shunga he was a very strict follower of Hindu policies and Hindu beliefs and all, and he wanted to establish the Vedic culture very strongly in India. So Pushyamitra Shunga was basically an army general of Brihadrata. When Brihadrata was ruling Magadha, he was on the throne of Magadha. Brihadrata went on a tour of the army. Okay, so just on a tour and Pushyamitra Shunga had done a conspiracy against the king. Pushyamitra had got some soldiers on his side, and he prepared a conspiracy that when the king will come for the rounds, you know, to check the army to see if everything is all right, during that time all the soldiers, you know, surrounded him and Pushyamitra beheaded him. You know, he killed Brihadrata and established the Shunga dynasty. The Shunga dynasty's establishment, this led to the decline of the Mauryas. And the establishment of the Shunga dynasty, the Shungas in Magadha and all, saw the re-emergence of Hindu Vedic culture once again. Again, you will see the later Vedic policies takes the grip. You know, Pushyamitra was very, very intolerant towards Buddhism and Jainism, and many Buddhist monks had to run away from the kingdom, saving their lives. Pushyamitra used to kill them. Pushyamitra Shunga he was not tolerant towards other. He was a very strict believer in Hindu culture and the Vedic culture, and you know,
the monks of Buddhism are called Bhikkhu. So ma'am, Ashoka also became a Bhikkhu.
Huh? What? I really did not get the question. Anyway,
When the monks of
understand it
Buddhism are called Bhikkhu, ma'am, so Ashoka also became a Bhikkhu.
No. If the bhikkhu is, if you are going begging, they are called all monks. Okay. Now, if you are begging and leading a simple life, we call it, you know, a life of an ascetic. Sometimes we call that. But Ashoka did not give up his throne. Ashoka remained the king. So, of course, he remained a king, but he was a king who had different policies, different way of ruling the kingdom. we will never refer to Ashoka as a monk who had left everything. He did not give up his empire. He worked as a king till the last day of his life for the welfare of his people. Okay, see you next week. Next week, we'll do a little
Bye,
bit of
ma'am.
question answer.
Tomorrow we will meet.
Bye bye.
And tomorrow we will meet in geography
Tomorrow
class.
geography. Tomorrow the geography.
Today only we will meet in geography class.
We have to Today wait how? for another
There
week.
is no geography.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye bye.